tone in the organization that we will not tolerate these aspects of non-compliance. It's only when there is a consistent tone that you will start to have change. And I think that we fully support you, Chair, in holding the department accountable and its entities accountable in this regard. And you will have our full cooperation when it comes to these areas. Let me also say to Honourable Bryant, I think that the CFO and the former acting DG will speak a little bit about the reconstitution of the BACs and the DACs and the evaluation committees and so on. But I think, Honourable Bryant, what is important for you to understand is that we do have a new Chief Financial Officer who joined us just shortly before the end of the financial year that we are discussing today. We have a new Director General. In environmental programs, we have a new DDG. And in many of the other branches, we have new leadership. And that leadership has been appointed on a clear understanding that issues of public accountability, transparency, and ethics are fundamental to the administration of this department and its entities. What you would understand is that in terms of the financial delegations, certain people, by virtue of the fact that they hold certain portfolios, do have to serve on the DACs and the BACs. But you will see that there is a higher degree of new leadership, and we sincerely hope that because there is a new leadership, there will also be this difference in approach and attitude. And we intend to follow up consequence management, and we intend to make it very clear to everybody that this is where the line is. This is the side of the line you have to stay on. And if you don't, these are the consequences. I think that the person who's standing in for the DG administration, the DDG on the administration side will tell you that we do have training around issues of ethics. But I think that if training is not followed up by enforcement, then obviously it's just a nice day spent in a workshop. So I think that the other issue that you have raised, Chairperson, is a very important issue because it relates to the question of the minimum cash standards. And you would be aware that this was a requirement from National Treasury that we had to get these implementing agents. You will be aware that there was a court case where that approach was not upheld by the judge. And in due course, we will be looking at that whole issue in the environmental program section. Whether this is the best way to approach our programs, we will be looking at that. And it's something that the new Deputy Director General and the new DG will be giving attention to. And in due course, I'm sure we would be in a position to give further advice to the Portfolio Committee on what our approach will be in that regard. Let me hand over now to the former acting DG, the CFO, to begin with the answer to the questions, and then I think we would also encourage the DDGs to respond to those issues that are specific to their portfolios.
Thank you, Minister. Honourable Phillips, I'm going to ask that the DDG Climate Change talk to the issue around the cases that were opened in terms of the burglaries and thefts in relation to our equipment at the weather services. In terms of Honourable Bryant, the financial misconduct cases, and I think it also relates to the question asked by Honorable Paulson in relation to the disciplinary processes as well as the criminal cases. Just to mention, honorable members, that the two processes are not exclusionary of each other. So in other words, you can initiate a disciplinary process in the department. There's also the potential for a recovery process, as I think it was Honorable Bata referred to the fact that we should try and keep people's pensions and not pay them out until we've recovered them. But there is that possibility as well. But the processes are not. So you can, in other words, start a disciplinary process, but at the same time, if there's a criminal infraction, you can then open a case and have the criminal matter investigated as well. So the disciplinary process would be an internal process of the department. The criminal process would be a process that would be dealt with by the South African Police Services and the courts once the matter goes for prosecution. So I hope that explains a little bit in terms of what we can potentially do. I think the memberships of the BSC, and we've touched on it briefly in the slides, and I've mentioned also that we have already started informally implementing that. Once the CFO talks, he can probably tell you a bit more detail because he chairs the bid adjudication committees as well. We've noted Honorable Ntunu's matters raised in terms of the MNRF and the risk management and internal controls that are required, which are also recommendations by the AG and also recommendations from the forensic report. Then the issue around raised by Honorable Ntunu also in relation to checking the skills, and I think the Honorable Chairperson also touched on the type of people we have in supply chain, and also how we ensure that these are people of integrity. So what we try and do is when people are appointed, we obviously do the necessary security checks, but maybe a potential consideration might be, an integrity assessment at some point or something to that effect. But we have noted the point. Then also Honorable Paulson. Honorable Paulson, we missed question 2 because I think your system was giving a bit of a problem then. But in relation to the question around the disciplinaries and the criminal matters, I think I've addressed that in Honorable Brian's response. I'm going to ask that the fisheries colleagues address the issue around the framework. My recollection is that we have sent it through our internal processes in terms of the MinTech and MinMec, but that will be confirmed by the acting DDG, Ms. Middleton. So I think we are on track with that. In terms of the climate change and the fact that we're not using clean energy there, I'm afraid the point is definitely taken, but I'm afraid that they might steal the solar panels as well, because they're stealing cables and everything else related to the air quality monitoring stations. I think, Honorable Mbata, we've noted your issues in terms of the transfers, and also the matters related to supply chain management. I think we've responded on some of those, and the CFO will just give us a little bit more detail in terms of that. The aquaculture bill and the roadmap for the bill. I think if I have it correctly, Honorable Mbata, that is going to be on the program for this year, and we're looking to probably finalize it in this financial year. Then, Honorable Chair, in relation to the misconduct issues and how we focus on people in terms of supply chain management, I have addressed that to an extent, and the CFO can probably expand on how they will ensure that we have credible people and people with integrity dealing with our supply chain management issues. And I think that is it in relation to the issues that I'm able to respond to. So I'm going to hand over, Chair, to the CFO to just expand a little bit on the the supply chain management improvements that have been done.
Thank you, Isham. Thank you, Chairperson. In terms of the supply chain processes, the various committees, we've got the two committees, the bid specification and the bid evaluation committee. Those committees vary from one project to another. But I definitely agree that also with Honorable Mbata around the issues of skills training is very critical for us. We have at this point in time given a focus to deal with processes so that we can make sure that our processes are aligned and we ensure compliance with the prescript. But certainly people have to be well trained in understanding the prescripts of SCM and also in making sure that we can apply those appropriately. These committees, the one issue about them, which is also a good advantage, is that they are transversal. They are not only made up of SCM people, they also have people from the business unit who are from operations. We've got legal and risk management in there. So in that manner, in my view, the kind of transparency that you have in dealing with matters gives us a comfort at the end of the day that processes will be followed. But training, it's really key to ensure that people know what they are dealing with. And in my view, I think SCM can really be very tricky in certain areas. So it is important for us that we get skilled in the necessary regulations, and we need to update that on an annual basis, just to make sure that we update ourselves and everyone else who partakes in these committees are really aware of the laws that they need to follow. When we look at the areas, I think Honorable Nazia Paulson, the issue around my choice of words, let me apologize for that to say we are hoping to. We've got a program in place, and therefore definitely our objective is to ensure that we remove those qualifications, the 3 qualifications that we are left with. I've got confidence in the team that I'm leading and the management in the department, because it is not only around finance, it is also about the operations, that we will be able to deal with these issues in this financial year. Having looked at the areas, I think, Chairperson, of fruitless and wasteful expenditure and unauthorized expenditure, these are the areas in terms of unauthorized. It is a new matter that came up, and we need to investigate. We already know the issues that are involved here about funds having been transferred without a business plan, and we are going to be dealing with that in terms of a formal investigation so that we can be able to have a conclusion on the matter of unauthorized expenditure. Fruitless expenditure, the areas have been identified. Some work has been done by the area, the branch concerned, but there are issues that we need to ensure that we follow the framework set by National Treasury. In terms of the measures that were done, that framework was not followed fully, and we are going to implement the framework appropriately in resolving and making sure that there's accountability for fruitless and wasteful expenditure. I think those are the relating to the SM, and yeah, I think I will stop at that. Yeah, thank you very much.
Can we take Dr. Kumalo on the issue of the burglaries?
Thank you, Minister. Yes, to confirm, we do report the cases of burglaries to the SAPS, and where there is insurance, the insurance then requires those claim numbers to replace the damage, to fix the damage that has been caused there. Some authorities, however, don't have insurance. We are working on ensuring that authorities have insurance. Perhaps, Minister, I can also take the question around the data energy on the monitoring network. The monitoring stations are connected to the South African grid. Maybe just to mention here, Minister, that if you put solar panels at the stations, they also get stolen, but also the amount of power that is required to run the station is would require a lot of solar panels because it's quite intensive. We also have an aircon in the stations to ensure that the temperature is kept controlled, because these are shelters that we put outside, Minister. I think that would cover the question sufficiently. Thank you.
Can we take Sue on the issues of the fishing licenses, the working for fisheries, and other issues pertaining to the Marine Living Resources Fund?
Thank you, Minister. There were a couple of issues relating to either the MLRF or fisheries. The first set of questions, Honourable Nkunu, we would agree that the MLRF needs rebuilding and support from the National Department. We can say that the process for appointing a CFO is at an advanced stage. And once that person is in office, the posts of the Director Supply Chain Management and the Director Financial Management will be expedited. Those posts have already been advertised. Mention this because the AG has consistently raised the issue of a lack of capacity and vacancies in financial section, and the filling of those posts will go a long way in building the capacity, and they can then focus on the internal controls and the governance issues. Also, I can report a couple of members raised the concern around the underspending on the Working for Fisheries program. As I mentioned in the report, the Working for Fisheries program essentially collapsed and has had to be rebuilt from scratch. On the positive side, we have obtained permission from National Treasury to redirect 120 million of the unspent funds to the vessel operating costs budget so that critical surveys can take place, because that budget was also cut. Then, Honourable Paulson, in terms of the National Inland Freshwater Fisheries Policy, that is on the new APP, the 2021 APP of the branch. And in terms of progress, it has gone through the MinTech, MinMec, and NEDLAC processes. We have very recently received a NEDLAC report stating that it can proceed, and it will now go through to the DG cluster and then on to the various other clusters for approval. In terms of then, Honourable Paulson, I think you raised two questions, one about small scale, and then the other, I assume, was about FRAP. But let me start with the small scale first. The small scale fishers were exempt from having to pay application fees. All species that qualify or are defined as small scale species have been included in what is known as the basket of species, for which they do not pay application fees. Then in terms of FRAP, which is the commercial fishing rights allocation process, yes, there will be extensive consultations in every town and province, where the process will be explained, the venues will be publicized, the dates will be publicized. And in term, you mentioned hake. Hake handline is a small scale species because it is a nearshore species, but hake, deep sea trawl, and inshore trawl are not small scale species. they don't meet the definition of nearshore. Then in terms of Honourable Mbata's question, the aquaculture bill will be revived by the 6th administration, and it is already on the parliamentary and cabinet schedule for the next financial, the 21 financial year. Thank you.
Chair, I think the last group of questions, I'm not sure whether Ms. Musakeni can answer. It was on issues pertaining to scrap metal and waste tires.
Thank you, Minister. Firstly, starting with waste tires, we are in the process of finalizing the tire industry waste management plan under the section 29. It has also looked at processing challenges that we are facing. So looking into the actions that we would need to implement to ensure that we upscale the processing. So we are looking forward to addressing some of the barriers that are causing a stifle with regard to processing. And secondly, on the issue of the theft of cables and some of the scrap yards that are using the provinces as the delegated authority, they are the ones that issue I would call it waste storage certificates. So these scrap yards are supposed to get that the certificates from the respective province. So GDART in the case of Tshwane, Gauteng, and also because cables and other second-hand goods are also regulated from the subs side, there has to be an authority letter that is issued by subs. So it's something that the GDART would work with subs to check compliance of the specific scrapyard. So it's something that we can follow up with Gauteng on. Thank you.
Honorable Minister, that concludes the responses. Well, I don't see any hand now that would like to follow up. If there's no hand, unless you want to have any concluding remarks, Minister.
No, Chair, I think that we have covered the issues. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, I know that we have got an oversight program that takes us to KZN tomorrow. So there might be a few things that we'll need to sort out. We were supposed now to get to an item on the minutes of the previous meeting. So when I followed up, the minutes were initially, there was an indication there will be minutes, but they were not sent to members. And the excuse that I am getting from the officials is that they were busy preparing for this oversight visit. So unfortunately, though we accepted the item, we'll have to take it to the next meeting. With that item not being there, without seeing any hand, I would like to adjourn the meeting or close the meeting. Can I do so? Honorable members?
Yes, Chair, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much to all of you, Minister, Deputy Minister, new DG, and the team. and officials from Parliament. Thank you very much. The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.